Good afternoon. As we look again at this journey through the supremacy of the Constitution, we have been talking about the fact that the Constitution is supreme. Today, we want to look a bit further in the dealing with the Constitution of the Co-operative Republic of Guyana. Now, the first thing that I want you to understand is that the Supremacy Clause that we spoke about. Now, the Supremacy Clause is Article 8 of our Constitution. When you read that Article 8, you will, of course, be able to recognize what the Supremacy Clause is. For those of you who missed that, I want to be able to go through that again as a way of making you quite aware of what the clause is. Now, Article 8 of the Constitution, and I would read, this Constitution is the supreme law of Guyana. And if any other law is inconsistent with it, that other law shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. Now, that is called a supremacy clause. Now, that supremacy clause confers on the Constitution the highest authority in the legal system, so that in the legal system, the Constitution is the highest law. There is no law which is higher than the Constitution. Now, the Constitution is imperative. Now, whenever we talk about the supremacy of the Constitution, one of the things that we need to recognize is that the Constitution is so supreme that it will allow any of the makers of, let us say, the legislators or even Parliament, that they must act within the Constitution. For example, if they're about to have a new piece of legislation drafted or prepared, it must always have the consideration of what the Constitution says. Now, so we will say that the Constitution is imperative in that you cannot avoid the Constitution. Now, the Constitution in itself prohibits. It prohibits or it constrains the actions of Parliament. And so that, and we're saying that to say, again, looking at the Supremacy Clause, if Parliament decides that it will enact a law which is not consistent with the Constitution, then, of course, the courts will have only one option, and that option is that the courts must rule and determine that that piece of legislation which would be inconsistent with the Constitution is void, because that is what the Constitution, that is how the Constitution treats with any piece of legislation which is outside of the Constitution. There are four elements that we would want to look at when we talk about constitutional supremacy. One is that ordinary laws must be conformed to the Constitution. Ordinary laws, every piece of legislation in this country must be conformed with the Constitution. Secondly, the Constitution limits governmental powers. Public bodies are not allowed to do what they want to do because they must act within the confines of the powers given to them by law. Now, of course, you might want to look at, we will take on another occasion, we will look at Articles 164 in its entirety. But I will go so far to say today that there are special procedures for amending the Constitution. Now, of course, Articles 164 says, and I would read, Subject to the provisions of paragraphs 2 and 3, a bill for an act of parliament to alter this constitution shall not be passed by the National Assembly unless it is supported at the final voting in the National Assembly by votes of a majority of all the elected members of the Assembly. So, of course, you have the majority of persons, of course, must give their vote. The fourth thing is that if there is a constitutional breach, the way in which a person approaches the court is that the person comes to the court by way of judicial review. All judicial review is saying is that the person is coming to the constitutional court, and the person is saying to the court, there has been a constitutional breach. And the courts, of course, will look at the case and look at the merits of the case to make a determination. On next week's topic, we are going to seek to answer this question. Is Parliament supreme? Is Parliament supreme? I look forward to seeing you on the next occasion where we journey through the Constitution of the Co-operative Republic of Guyana. I thank you. Audio Jungle.